Get those nerds!
And welcome to a brand new edition of Bid Nerd, your daily nerd out on the most interesting car of the day from all the automotive enthusiast auction sites. I'm John Polnik, along with my partner Michael Deeb. He's in San Francisco, and I'm right here in the Container Park in downtown Las Vegas. Michael Deeb, good day to you, sir. How are you?
I'm
Don't tell me about
fantastic,
the weather.
JP. I will not tell you about the weather, but listen. I get frustrated with my old cars. I love my old cars, and I'm sure you've been there at some point where your old car just like something is always wrong with it, or something is just like it bothers you. And every once in a while, JP, I think, you know what I should do is not buy an old car and buy a more modern car. And the car we are going to cover today is a car I have often considered purchasing for myself. So that's a little tease about today's car. I'll send it back to you. But John, this is a car I would want to own, man. Make fun of me if you like, but I bet you the guy who owns this car is a happy person.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. What we do here on the show, if you're new, thanks for joining us. Hit the subscribe, like, and notification button if you haven't done it already. What we do is we scour all the sites, Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, Marked, P-Car Market, and we find the most interesting car of the day, and then we have a conversation about it. What usually makes the car the most interesting car is the conversation that we can have about that car. It's usually not the most expensive car or the rarest thing necessarily or whatever. It's just what's kind of interesting and topical. And you're right about today's car. It is definitely something that I feel like with results of cars like it, the tide is kind of raising the price of cars that are kind of tied to other ones in heritage and the like. So let's get to the most interesting car of the day. But before we do, make sure you guys go and check out our friends at Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. If you are in the market for a classic Porsche or even a brand new Porsche and you're like going, I don't want to deal with all these auction sites. And you're like, hey, I just want to deal with some experts, some people that actually know what they're talking about. They can help me find the car that you're actually looking for, and they'll fly you out to Vegas when they find the car you want. They'll fly you there, put you up at a really cool hotel on the Strip, and then you can drive that car around Vegas and then go home and they'll ship it to you. Look at that, Michael. That's pretty badass, huh?
That's actually pretty nice. I should buy my next Porsche from Godden.
You should have. What the heck?
The Porsche we have, our Cayenne, is from Godden, and it's still running strong. I think we're pushing like 120,000 miles on that thing now. Can you imagine? I think we put 70,000 miles on that car since we bought it from Godden.
It's just getting broken in. All right, let's get to the most interesting car of the day. Oh, hey, I'm sorry, I keep going side to side. Thanks for those of you who are part of the Nerd Herd. You guys that have been fans already, and you hang out all the time and you write comments and everything like that. We love you guys. You guys are doing the work. You're spreading the word, growing the herd. So thank you. All right. What's the car today, Michael Deeb?
Check it out, JP. We're going to go over to Porsche's Marqued Auction platform where they have presented this. I mean, this car is kind of dreamy to me, JP. It's a 2003 Nissan 350Z Track Edition with just 12,000 original miles, and the car is located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Now, when the 350Z came out, the body shape was kind of, how should I say, unfettered, right? Unfettered. There's no spoilers on it. You know, they made a version of this car later called the Nismo Edition, and then the car graduated to the 370Z, and the shape of the body changed, and then they made the Nismo Edition of the 370Z, and the car got really tacky looking. You and I agree in our criticism of today's cars where there's so many edges and so many creases and body lines that like designers have lost they've lost the plot. But when you look at this car and consider when it came out in the early 2000s, this car kind of looked like a concept car, and they put it on the road. And I feel like this car has aged really well. This year, as this car turns 20 years old and you look back, I really like the sort of how naked this car, and that there's not like rockers and spoilers and wings on it. And then the Track Edition itself is pretty neat. So what you got with the Track Edition of this car, there was a touring and I think a base or something, but the Track Edition gave you the 18-inch forged Ray's engineering wheels. You got Brembo brakes, a limited slip differential, a carbon fiber drive shaft, and then you didn't get leather interior. You got cloth interior because the idea was that if you were actually sliding around on the track, that the cloth interior would hold you in place better than the leather would. And so this is a car that appeals to me just like cerebrally. Like this car makes sense. It's about 300 horsepower. It's a V6. It's a manual transmission and rear wheel drive. You got Brembo brakes. Like what more would you possibly want from a driver's car? So every time the 914 or the Alpha or any of these cars kind of like give me a headache, and I'm frustrated, and the car smells like gas and it's dripping oil, and I'm like, man, a Japanese car, like what Japanese car would I love to own that wouldn't break the bank? And I've been thinking about this particular car for a while. So when this one came up, I thought it might be fun for you and I to go back and revisit the original 350Z. Now, this car was a big departure from the 300ZX that it essentially replaced, although it didn't come right after that car. I think there was, and you can tell me, John, I think there was a couple year gap before this car came out. But I liked how analog this car was, how simple it was, normally aspirated motor. I didn't really pay much attention to it at the time, but as we look back, this car is kind of like everything you need and nothing you don't. And so I just wonder how history is going to be kind to this car, and where we're at with it today. This was essentially, John, I'll leave you with this number. It was a $35,500 car on its MSRP 20 years ago. So I'll throw you a couple of questions. What would $35,000 look like today? Is that double? Like, is that $70,000 or $80,000 today? Because the new Z is not that expensive. And then, where do you think, like, have you driven one of these in anger? I know, like, one of the guys goes to the track out there with you that has the 370. I think he works at Trophy, but I can't remember who exactly that car belongs to, but he's got one, but I don't know if it's a track. Anyway, John, what do you think of this car? Do you like it as much as I do? I'm really feeling this car these days.
Well, I guess the question to me would be, have you driven one? If this
So
is
my
something
friend,
you're that interested in.
believe it or not, a buddy of mine's got a convertible with an automatic, and a couple of different times we've driven up to the lake. I literally took Ruby and he would take the Z. So we would chase each other on the roads up to Lake Berryessa, and then we've swapped cars. He's lent me his car a couple different times. So I've had his car. I've driven his car. Like it's felt like it's my car for a couple weeks at a time. When I needed a car, he lent it to me. And his car's in terrible condition, and yet all of the driving experience is there. Like you can feel how the suspension works, and you can feel the motor work. And even though the automatic is junk, you can imagine how nice it would be to have a slick 6-speed, and how much better it would be to have a track model with better equipment and a coupe that would arguably be more rigid and fun to drive. But I loved his convertible. I loved driving his 350Z Cabriolet. That's a great car. So this car has been kind of the one I've always wanted. So I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I've never driven this track version, but I can say I've driven quite a few of these, and I had some friends that had them, and man, I was, if ever there were a case for, okay, it looks good on paper, this is one of them. I mean, they just don't live up to the numbers that they claim. It's, like Porsche's, and I'm not just trying to be a Porsche fanboy, but you always kind of feel like Porsche holds back on the numbers, because they want.
Oh, they have absolutely have.
Whereas this car, it's like Datsun over there, they're just like, oh yeah, let's say it has 300 horsepower. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. Yeah. When this car was contemporary, I had someone who worked for me. He bought one, and I had a 3-liter. BMW Z, the Z4, right? Yeah. And that car blew the wheels off of this car, and the BMW on paper had probably 60 fewer horsepower. I mean, I think the regular 3-liter SI version or it wasn't even the SI, it was just the S version of the Z4 had like 240 or something like that horsepower. If that, right? It wasn't even an M. I got an M later. But it was, it just in every way, it just wrecked the 350Z. And I represented a Nissan dealership at the time. I made commercials for one. So, they would give them to me for the weekend, and, we would go out and film them and stuff like that. And look, don't get me wrong. I think they are actually really fun cars, and I think they have always represented a great bang for the buck.
Right.
And so, if you can get one cheap, that's great, but I think part of the problem with them being cheap, which they have been for a very long time,
Yeah.
is that as per usual, like 944s or 964s, where they're cheap, they get bought by cheap people, but they get bought by kids. It's kind of the go-to car for wannabe
sure.
drifters and stuff, and they just get absolutely destroyed. And the build quality wasn't that great. I would way rather have a 300Z than I would a 350Z, and I'm not a hater of the styling, although it is somewhat controversial. I'm with you. This earlier version, the 350 versus the 370, is definitely cleaner. I have no idea why they decided to make that big, stupid door handle thing.
Yeah.
It's just like
So bad.
protruding out there. It's like, what were they thinking there? Because the rest of it is actually pretty clean.
Yeah.
The 370, I had when the 370 came out, I had a 996 C4S. And I took it to my detailer, and it was parked out front. And I went to pick it up after he had gotten done detailing it, and there was a white 370Z out front. And my detailer was like, "Oh, that's my dream car, man." And I'm like, "It's parked next to a C4S. What are you talking about? Are you out of your mind?" I was like, "Okay, dude." So there's the Datsun fanboys have always been a little goofy. I like the car. The track version, I'd sure like to get a hold of. I mean, that might be pretty interesting. The 400Z just came out, and you mentioned that they aren't very expensive, but I don't think that's the case. I don't think you can get one cheap. Their list is like 30 or 40 grand, but from what I'm hearing, they're getting like 70 for them or something.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. It's that first year, everybody's paying to be the first one to have one.
Yeah, but they're heavy. They're really, 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 really heavy. And the new 400 is based on this chassis. It's not a new chassis.
No,
but at least the 400 has a ton more power because it's got all the turbos and stuff. All right. I'm rambling. Right. What do we think this thing's going to be worth?
Well, it's interesting, John. So it's on the Mark platform. Spoiler alert, this car closes tomorrow as we're filming. The car, when I looked at it last night, it was at $10,000 on 3 bids. It is now on $11,500 on 4 bids, and it closes in less than 24 hours. So JP, I wrote $35,000 because I think that's what this car is worth. One, they only made 471 of the track examples of this year. The car only has 12,000 miles, and the car is basically bone stock. So I do think this car is going to bring basically what it was at list price. I think it's going to bring stickers. So I'm going to go $35,000 and see what you have to say.
How many miles does it have on it again?
12,000.
That is really low miles. Yeah, look, I think Marked is the wrong platform. We saw that beautiful V8 Lotus Spirit fail to sell. It definitely would have brought more money on BAT. It definitely would have brought more money on Cars and Bids. Cars and Bids profile is definitely going up, and I think that's the place that this car belongs.
Agreed.
I don't think this car belongs on BAT. I think BAT, it would get lost in the mix. It's not cool enough to compete with all the really, 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 hyper cool stuff that you find on BAT. But Cars and Bids, with its uptick in profile and traffic and the weirdness of its base audience, I think this car is
weirdness
perfect.
of its founder.
Yeah, let's be honest. The founder is more what I was talking about. Hey, he's got $37 million. He got talk about the Weird Al Yankovic of our time, man. That guy just
I wonder what he did with the money, John. Do you think he went out and got 4 more cats?
Well, I know he got a CGT. Dude. God bless Doug DeMuro, man. I mean, I watched one of his videos over the weekend, and I was just like, okay. I mean, he's just phoning it in. Whatever. God bless him. He gets paid. No, this car belongs on Cars and Bids, and there's no way in hell this is making 35 grand. I don't think it's worth 35 grand, even on another platform. I think 25 is the tops for this car. I think it's going to FTS at like 19 on this platform. I don't think it's getting it anywhere near what it could bring at another platform.
So is 19 your bid? 19 in FTS?
Yep, 19
All right.
FTS.
Big spread. Let's see what happens, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's a neat car. What do you guys think out there in our audience? Am I just missing the fact that this is a rarer version of this, the what do you call it, track version, and the fact that it has low miles and it's clean and it's a bit of a unicorn in its world? again, I think this particular version of the car, I'd love to get behind the wheel of one of these and be proven wrong. This would be cool if this is kind of like the diamond in the rough, the bang for the buck potential here.
Yeah. Now you said something about build quality, but from a drivetrain standpoint, these are pretty reliable cars, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you were talking about the one that goes out there on the track with the trophy guys. Or that thing breaks all the time on the track.
Well,
so when it's under duress,
that car is being wailed on. Yeah, I'm talking about just as a sports car in the garage.
Driving around, certainly it's probably, way better than any of the Porsches that we drive. That's for sure. The classic ones, anyway.
Ouch. Ouch.
Yeah. Although Porsche was, I think, top 3 in reliability. I just saw on something recently.
Yeah.
Anyways, all right, guys, what do you think? Put your bid in now. Play along. It's like prices.
What's the minute mark?
Yeah,
what's the minute mark right now?
So put it in there. Let's see here. I think I can actually see. It won't be. It's like 15
tell our audience
and
the minute
40
mark
seconds or something. But I don't. That doesn't count the intro. Let's see what you guys got. Are you better at this than us? Let us know, and we will go to the future right now and find out exactly what happens. Stick around. We're going to tell you what happens. What are the results of the auction right after this? Hey guys, I got to tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you got to call our friend Steve at Godden. This guy.
1989 linen gray metallic G50 cab.
Is that going to be for sale?
It is going to be for sale. The car only has 65,000 miles on it.
Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about, and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas.
If you love watching car videos on YouTube, you gotta check out my channel, The Rami Show. Oh, this car! I am driving a 2020 Lamborghini SVJ. This car, watch this. Oh! 115 mile an hour turn like it's nothing.
All right, guys, welcome back to Bid Nerd, your daily nerd out of the most interesting car of the day. And today's car is pretty interesting. If you haven't hit that subscribe, like, or notification button, now is the time to do so. Now that we've fired up that flux capacitor, we're going to turn it off, and we are going to get to the results of this interesting Datsun. I'm sorry, I just got to call it a Datsun. I'm so ticked. I wish they would have just kept that name. I'm so bummed that they ever even went to Nissan. What is up with that, Michael Deeb?
Oh, blame Renault, who I think owns them. But here we go, JP. First of all, I don't know if you've looked ahead, but I had a pretty bad week, starting with this car right here. I went huge on this car. I thought for sure this one was going to go to the moon and back. I said $35,000. After you got done laughing, you said $19,000. Reserve not met. This car failed to sell on the Marqued platform for just $18,000 on 17 bids. So, JP, you won that one. But I am going to argue the result and suggest that just because you bid 19,000, which I think you're bidding on the platform as much as anything, and the car reached 18, that might be the result of the lot, but I don't think either of those numbers has anything to do with the true value of this car, with just 12,000 miles on it, being one of just like 400 and something with the track package. And I actually like the colorway, this sort of titanium silver looking thing with the gold Brembo calipers and the cloth seats. This is a car I would love to own and I would like to drive. Even if it's not the best car, I think, for an entry into the sports car or old car world, I think you could do a lot worse than a Nissan 350Z that's all stock with a track package on it. I still like this car, and I still think the value of it is closer to my number than your prediction, even though you were right on the money about this lot on this platform. So congratulations, buddy. I send it back to you. What do you think of that result?
Yeah, I don't think that it was the platform's fault. I think this is just a car that is just not finding love. It hasn't hit that moment yet. It's not old enough for this thing to be something that, a bunch of people are really looking for. I mean, yes, it is 20 years old at this point, or almost 20 years old. It's a 20-year-old design at this point. But the nostalgia factor isn't there. The people that really, really, really wanted these when they were in their 20s are not quite in the money yet. They don't quite have that disposable income. So I think it's a few years off for this car to really pop. Plus, they're not that good, like I said before the break. Plus, unlike things like BMWs and, that have M packages and I don't know, even Hondas have what do they call them? Rs or R-Spec or something like that.
Type R.
Yeah, Type R. Thank you. I don't think that, I just don't think that this touring badge on this car really means a lot to many people. I think it means something to maybe a couple of people, but not enough people to be out there looking for them. The ones that, you raise your hand that it is something that you might be interested in, but isn't the Nismo package the more racier version of this car? Don't they have like another level up? And
that is true, and it's more subjective because that gets you so much body work. The car starts to look very Fast and the Furious.
Yeah.
But the only, I completely understand your point, but I would just contest that, this car didn't even break 20 and it's got 12,000 miles on it. I think the value for this car is 30. And then I think the little, you just want a little diatribe about the kids from that era aren't in that, big earnings at their 40s yet, and that they're making, they have disposable income and they can put the car from their childhood in their garage. At that time, I think a car like this could then bring over $50,000-$60,000. But I do think that this, early 350Zs that are unmolested, cars that aren't modified, do bring a premium. And I think that premium in this case for this car with that package, the track package, would be north of $30,000. Would it bring 40? No, not right now. Not while interest rates are high, and not when JP's target audience for this car isn't there yet. But to me, the value of this car is not sub $20,000. I think the platform failed on any of the others. Maybe not P car, but I think for sure on Cars and Bids, and absolutely on Bring a Trailer, this car would have brought north of 25. In my case, north of $35,000. I think that's where the number is on this car. And I'm curious to see anybody who watches this episode, if they would chime in and agree with either one of us, because we really are on opposite ends of the spectrum on our opinions on this particular car in alignment with this lot. I think the lot, or the platform, let the consignor down.
I think you've got a little optimism bias, and I think that you're letting the fact that you actually want this car affect what you think the value of the car is. And that is dangerous when you're actually buying a car. Luckily, we're just playing a game, right? We're just kind of like saying, hey, we think it's worth this. But if you were to put your money out there where your mouth is, if would you actually plop down 30 grand of your money to buy something like this?
I would, man. but I also know that I would, when you're looking at a car with 12,000 miles that's 20 years old, you're not supposed to drive it. If you're going to go invest a premium on it, the only way to protect that premium that you paid is to keep the mileage low. I'm the idiot that would pay the premium for the lower miles and then go drive the snot out of it and chip the paint and crack the windshield and lower it and all that other stupid stuff. So I'm the wrong guy to guess. JP, I'm a salesperson, so we're the biggest laydowns ever. I would just throw myself across the hood of this car and just ask, how far do you want me to spread them? You know what I mean? It's just I don't care.
That's part of what I think the appeal of this car is, because it's not a great car. It's just not something that lives in that in a category that you would say this is one of the greats, right? The previous Z is definitely one of the greats.
Right.
Even though this car might be arguably and on paper better by the metrics, the previous car was definitely a great car. This one is not. But it still is a really fun car, and that's why I think it's always going to be kind of hurt until it becomes something that's nostalgic. I think that if you, I don't, if you could buy this car for $25,000 with the low miles, I don't think this is a car that you sit there and collect. I think you pay that premium because it's a car that you can wring its neck for a very long time before having to really invest any heavy cost of maintenance and operating. Unlike maybe an old, Porsche or something like that, where if it has low miles, you're scared to put the miles on it because not only are you ruining the value, but then you're getting yourself into, maintenance windows that wind up being very costly. This car, buy it, pay a premium up front because it has low miles, because that means that you can go ahead and put the miles on it, and who cares? They're not worth very much anyway. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you guys out there think of the results? Do you think this car would have brought a couple $1,000s more, $5,000, $10,000 more, closer to what Deeb thinks it's worth if it were on one of the better platforms? Or do you think Marked missed it, just straight up couldn't find the buyer for this thing? Let us know in the comments below. Deeb, are you loving the comments lately?
Yes.
I mean, what is going on? Okay, blame me for asking a yes or no question and expecting my partner to give me more than one word as an answer. We're trying to make a show here, and people tune in to hear Deeb go, yes, no.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, you could either watch another episode of Bid Nerds or just get one of those magic 8 balls, shake it up, ask a question, and look at the 1 or 2 word answers. I am loving the comments. I think people are really getting into it and kind of playing the game along with us and enjoying the game. We really hope that you guys out there are having fun when you watch the show, and we really, really do appreciate you guys being subscribers and watching and commenting. It just makes it that much more fun for us to make the show for you guys, because we don't make any money, so why not have a conversation online? Deeb, anything else you want to say before we dip on out of here other than thanks, Godden? Why don't you plug Godden real quick?
Yeah, thank you, Godden. Hey, listen, if you're looking for a classic Porsche, call our friends at Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. They have the experts to find the parts, the services, and the cars that you might be looking for. Tell them the Bid Nerds sent you.
All right, guys, we will see you tomorrow.
Nerds! Get those nerds!